Hello, hello everybody. Welcome to Lions Live, created by Vodafone. I'm David Flatman, and tomorrow it's all or nothing for the world champions South Africa as they take on the Lions in the second test. You'd imagine at this point all the pressure is on the South African shoulders. We're going to talk about more of that in a minute. We've got a nice show coming up for you in the next half an hour. We've got a bit of insight coming from inside the camp. We've had coaches, we've had players. This time we're speaking to one of the fitness coaches. Sounds odd, sounds a bit niche. We think you might enjoy it. We've got an alternative perspective coming from former Springbok, former Wasp, current Vodacom Bull and future Wasp, if you're keeping up, back rower Nizaam Carr, and our two guests this evening just ooze international class. Sam Warburton, of course, led the British and Irish Lions on 2 tours, and Jerry Guscott, of course, drop-kicked. We did that drop-kick in 97. He did do other things as well, but that drop-kick in 97 is the only one that actually matters. Lads, first of all, just a quick word on last week's test. One of the biggest turnarounds, the biggest turnaround of all time in a test match for the Lions. Sam, what were you feeling like at half-time?
I always thought the Lions would have a good shout against South Africa, and I said before the tour, because the Lions have played so much international rugby, I always thought they'd be strong in the last 20, and no one's bench is going to be as strong as the Lions, whether it's South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. So I knew the bench would have an impact. So if the Lions are there or thereabout within 20 minutes to go, they've always got a great chance. So I was always really confident.
Jerry, were you confident? You've watched 1,000 games by now and played in half 1,000 of them. Were you nervous at any point? Were you, what happens, happens?
I was totally nervous, pretty much all the way through. I was working for Supersport, and I walked out of the room when it went out to the TMO on Hamish Watson, because yellow card, down to 14, I think that's game. That's how close these sides are. So that's how nervous I was. I couldn't watch, I couldn't wait for that decision, so I went. But I'm so chuffed they did it. They're 1-0 up, and they can get it sewn up this weekend.
And we are not here to talk about refereeing decisions. We'll leave that to Rassie Erasmus. But that tackle, you've been there on the old dump tackles. You've had an issue yourself once, I seem to remember, Sam. Were you looking at that thinking, I'm very pleased he hasn't got a yellow or red card, but that could have been a card?
I said it on the commentary. I said, I wish I was that lucky in 2011.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was almost certainly a yellow. And I do think the Lions were fortunate there, because like you say, Jerry, 40 men, that could completely change the complexion of the game. So Lions were lucky there.
Yeah, right. We've got a poll for you at home. Whichever sort of device you're watching on, whichever medium you're using, you can vote on your screen, you can tap on your phone, and we'll let you know the results at the end. There's a massive prize up for grabs. It doesn't exist, but the honour is at stake. Here's the poll for you. So we've asked Bobby Stridgeon, who we're going to speak to in a minute, from the last 3 tours. This is Bobby's 4th Lions tour, but this is from the first 3. He doesn't want to embarrass anyone on the current tour. From his list, who would you most like to room with? These are Bobby's top 4 roommates from the last 3 tours, not this tour. Who would you most like to room with? Andy Powell, James Haskell, Mike Phillips, Donna Crowe-Callaghan. Jerry, who would you most like to room with out of that lot?
I've heard so much about Andy Powell, I definitely want to room with him.
Hang on,
we wouldn't spend too much time in the room.
No. Warby, presumably you've roomed with Andy Powell. Do you want to room with him again?
No.
Enough said. Yeah, yeah, absolutely fine. Right, that'll do. And I think he'd understand that. I don't think he'd want to room with himself, frankly. We're going to go actually straight live to Cape Town right now. This isn't pre-recorded. This is right now. We've had coaches on here. We've had players on here. But this time we've got the head of strength and conditioning for the British and Irish Lions, Paul Stridgeon, otherwise known as Bobby. Bobby, do you read me?
Yeah, I've got you. Evening, boys. You all right?
Evening, Bobby.
Yeah, we're all right. How are you doing over there?
Good as gold. We've just had the shirt presentation with the boys, so I was a bit emotional, to be fair, so I had to dry my eyes before coming in here. Yeah, we're all good.
Are you still wrestling people in training? Because if you're watching at home, you wouldn't know, because to look at Bobby, don't take this personally, it's not offensive, this one. You wouldn't know he was a very, very high-class wrestler, but he is. He used to tell us relatively often that if he wanted to, he could rip our arms off. He just chose not to. Are you still wrestling the lads in warm-up, or is there a player welfare issue?
I was 60 kilos then, when I'm like 87 now, so yeah, so it's a while away that, but it's a while ago. If someone challenges me, and if Gats tells someone to challenge me, so as I'm getting older and fatter, it's getting harder to win, but nobody's beat me yet.
No one's beaten you yet? Seriously, no one?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't.
No one.
But every dog has their day, just won't be for another 20 years for you. Maybe in your 7th or 8th tour, mate. When I say how are the boys, obviously they're living the dream. They're British and Irish Lions and they're on tour, but is the vibe noticeably different from last week? Is there a different sort of pressure?
No, it's been a good week. It's been a pretty relaxed week, really, considering the magnitude of this game that's coming up. We've tried to make it as relaxed as possible. We've done what we always do. We've trained well. We've trained with intensity. We've shortened the sessions a bit to try and get a mini peak. The boys are in a good place, really, and everyone's pretty relaxed, as I said.
Now, obviously, in your job, we all know that you wouldn't have that job if you weren't fully on top of the actual job. But, you know, I think it's okay for me to reveal to the world that you're not only picked because you're brilliant at your job, but some people view you as very, very good company. So what are you guys doing over there to make sure the lads enjoy themselves and relax a bit, as you know, just to relieve them from the inevitable pressure of the tour?
Well, that's a massive thing. I mean, especially given the constraints of COVID. So that was an important challenge for us to cope with. So we've been doing some stuff for the entertainment committee. So Hugh Bennett's on that, and some of the players are helping him with that. So we had a good quiz the other night. We had an eating challenge where the players had to eat 3 crackers without having a drink. And then when the staff came up, one member of staff from each team, they thought we were going to be eating the crackers, and we pulled the Big Mac out, and they had to eat a Big Mac as fast as they could and stuff. And that was good. Players on crackers, just so I've got to say.
Go on.
Pardon?
Go on, you carry on, sorry.
Yeah, we've got dirt boards, this electric dirt board that scores things for you that you might have seen in Japan. Pool tables. We've had to really kit out the players' games room just to keep everybody happy, because we can't go out and do anything.
I tell you what, it tells you how the game's changed. The 3 cracker without a drink used to be 10 mini donuts without a drink in 10 minutes. But things have changed. That's why we all look like this. They all look like that. Sam, you want to come in, don't you?
Yeah, Bobby, for those who don't know, you are integral to Lions teams. And people talk about first name on the team sheet. I think Gats would have you down as one of the first names. And one of the things you've done, which the players love in past tours, is the Bobby Cup. Obviously, with COVID restrictions, I know it takes a lot of planning. Have you done the Bobby Cup? And if so, has it been difficult to coordinate? And can you explain to people what the Bobby Cup is?
So the Bobby Cup was a cup that I presented back in my WAS days to Alex King. You all remember him? A little plastic cup to the best player of the week, and we used to present it every week at WAS, and we won only when we won the game. We won 17 games in a row, so that was difficult. Coming up with jokes or, excuse me, a skit every week. But now on Lions Tours, it's still going. We present it when we win 2 games in a row. The only twist we've got this time is that we have a celebrity announcing the winner. So, to be honest, we've had some good celebrities. I mean, we've had Usain Bolt sent something through. Who else have we had? Alex Ferguson. Who else? I'm asking someone here. David Beckham, Nicole Scherzinger. So, we've had some big dogs announcing the winner for us. So, it's been good. The players have been looking forward to it, trying to guess who we're going to have next. So, yeah, a lot of people have been helping me out with that. But it's been good. It's been good. Boys look forward to it. And when we win these next 2 games, we'll have another one on Sunday morning before we leave.
Well, it sounds amazing. I wish we had something like that in our day. Yeah. But, Bobby, I've got a quick question. All the viewers, I'm sure, would like to know, what kind of weights are the big boys, you know, the forwards pushing in the gym these days?
a bit more than they were back in your day, boss, I think. I mean, Bundy was in the gym the other day. Bundy is a back, obviously. And he filled the bar up. You know, Warby, when somebody's got a massive amount on the bar and you get a spotter behind and 2 either side, 1 either side. We couldn't there wasn't enough bar to grab. We were holding the clips, honestly, just in case. I think there was about 280 kilos on the box squat. So you can imagine, yeah, some strong boys around these days.
What about someone like Tide Furlong on a bench press? What number might he be?
Around 200 kilos, them lads, on a bench press. Yeah, Carl Sinclair, 200 plus. Strong boys, mate.
Flats could come back in. He just told us he did 210.
That's almost as much as I used to lift, Bob. These boys are strong. Except, yeah, they can move, and they sometimes play actual games of rugby, which is the 2 key differences. Bobby, just before you crack on with your evening, there's talk, you know, in our group here, and all the pressure's on South Africa. Now, all the pressure isn't on South Africa. You might argue more of it is. But has there been any talk within the camp of actually let the Springboks feel the pressure? We can go out and enjoy ourselves this week, or does the focus feel exactly the same as it did last week?
Focus from Gats. Gats has been awesome this week. I mean, when Gats speaks, people listen, and Warby will know this. When the big games come around, Gats speaks, and when he does, as I said, he speaks really well, and he's been talking about we've got to get out of jail card this week. I mean, obviously we've got another chance at it, but we're not going to use that. Big focus on doing the job this weekend. He said it's about being ready mentally. Physically, we know that we're ready. Strength, fitness-wise, we can cope with physicality. We just need to be mentally ready, and he's emphasised that for the last 3 days this week. Alan Wynn's done the same. Captain's run well. And he said to the boys tonight, whatever you need to do to get yourself ready for that game tomorrow to do a job, then do it. So everyone's individual, and the boys will do. I'm sure the boys will do that.
Bobby, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing from you. We wish you, we're all completely neutral here, but we all desperately hope you win and by a lot of points. Wish you all the very best indeed. Good luck, mate, in Test 2 tomorrow. Thanks for coming
boys.
on.
All the best. Have a good evening.
Good luck.
See you, boys.
Bobby. Good man, there he goes. Now, Sam, that is a bloke who you expect after 2 or 3 days on tour, at some point, he's going to drop off in energy and he's going to have a low and he's just excited to be here. 10 or 12 years on, you realise it don't stop, does it?
I remember playing against England back when I was young 20s. We were parked outside Twickenham and he was working with England for a bit. And the English bus was in front of us and it was dark, but the lights were on, so you can see inside the bus. And the English boys looked quite subdued. But there was this guy going up and down the bus, bouncing around. And I was like, who's that? And one of the lads who went on the 09 South Africa tour for the Lions, I asked Bobby, he's amazing. And then luckily on 2013, I saw him. And people don't realise, he's integral to Warren Gatland's team. Warren had him at Wasps, he brought him to Wales. Warren goes to the Lions, he brings with the Lions. He follows Warren around because he brings, on top of obviously being a world-class strength and conditioning coach, he brings so much enthusiasm, energy, morale to the group. He is literally invaluable for the Lions. And he's one of the key members of the whole team, players and staff. He was one of the first people Warren Gatland picked. So such a good guy. And anyone who knows him has nothing but good things to say.
Yeah, and I remember training under him myself for a little bit, a few times, and you think, well, it's below all that is an insane amount of knowledge to which he's continually adding and developing, and you almost forget that he's brilliant at his job because he's just kind of everyone's best mate. But Jerry, having someone like that, in that some people are very enthusiastic in the gym, but some of the lads don't really want to be there. So having him there, invaluable, right?
I would have needed someone like that.
That's why I asked. That's why I asked.
When it came to running around doing the aerobic stuff, I'm all cool in the gang with, but I just found the gym pretty boring. So yeah, I'd need someone like Bobby, and we did. So that enthusiasm just makes you want to do it, and particularly on a Lions tour where you've all got to bond together, you've all got to sync. That guy, invaluable.
Yeah, class bloke, very, very good at his job too. Let's have a quick look at the poll, see where you're at in terms of your votes. Out of Bobby's favourite roommates in the last 3 tours, who would you most like to room with? Haskell's running away with it. I mean, it's a tough one because, you won't get a word in, you won't sleep, speak or eat, and you'll be sleeping on the floor, but otherwise you'll have a really good time rooming with Haskell.
With Haskell, because he was brought up in the 2017 team, obviously. Vunipola got injured, they brought in Haskell. And I thought, and we have like committees, so I thought, Haskell's got to be our tour guide. So I just knew he'd be sort of good crack. So whenever we were on the bus, we were somewhere new. If you went to Hamilton or wherever in New Zealand, Rotorua, he'd have to get up in front of the bus and explain to us where we were going and why. He was a little history lesson, but you could imagine he just ran with it and he was brilliant. So I wasn't sure what he was going to be like when he came on tour, but he turned out to be brilliant and the boys loved him. So Haskell's a good shout.
Good shout. Now keep your votes coming in on the Vodafone app. We're not done yet. Let's have a look at the squad that Warren Gatland's picked, the 23 for the Test match tomorrow. Now, Jerry, a lot of talk was in your old position or close to it in the midfield there. A lot of talk about Elliot Daly being replaced by Chris Harris. Some see it as absolutely the right decision. Some see it as perhaps not quite as adventurous because Elliot Daly is more the attacking player. Chris Harris seen as the defensive rock. How do you view that change?
Totally honest, Flats. I thought the selection of Daly for the first one, it surprised me. I was picking Harris all day long because of his form. I didn't know too much about Chris pre-Six Nations, really, when he was playing for Scotland. And I've not watched too much Premiership, so I didn't really notice him at Gloucester. But his form on the tour, for me, meant he should have been starting first off. But then I get the way Gats is thinking. I want a little bit of surprise. I want to throw South Africa off. We're not going to make it obvious. So if they wanted to go wide, then Daly was the obvious choice. That soon changed, though, didn't it, when Lukhanyo Am came steaming in.
Yeah.
And so as soon as Daly was picked, I think that shows the mind of the defence of the South Africans. They knew what was going to happen. What we've seen from Chris Harris is he's cut inside his good line, so he can truck it up, which, a good back row wants to see that, wants a target. He can do that. They had bloody Elliot Daly doing it. Yeah. Come on. I mean, that was so wrong. I mean, I used to be in that position. And Will Carling said to me, come on a scissors ball. I said, you need to rethink that, mate.
I'll come on a dummy scissors ball, but that's all I'm offering. Hands down by my sides like that, like a dolphin.
I still might bump into somebody doing a dummy run. So I said, not a question. No. So for me, Chris has shown a nice outside break. He supported well. He can drop it on his foot and stick it down through. He's been the complete outside centre for me. So I think he thoroughly deserves his start, and I believe he'll do very well.
And I guess, Sam, that early hit from Lukanyam on Elliot Daly, it was almost like we spoke last week about the Lions' potential desire to actually maybe the first couple of balls go a bit deeper and then they play around the outside of this beastly defence, away from D'Alanda and away from Arm, and it didn't quite work, did it?
But to be fair to the Lions, like in the South Africa A game, which was basically South Africa, like you look at the pictures and there was loads of space wide. So we're all saying, oh, the Lions learned a lot in that game, but then so did South Africa. But, you know, they're smart. South Africa watched that game and said, oh, we're way too narrow. The Lions are going to watch us and think they can get outside. Well, they shut that off within 3 minutes. So, yeah, they went to sort of in the second half much more kick to regain possession, and Van der Merwe was great. And you know, South Africa have changed their number 8, Kwagga Smith, to Jasper Wiese, a more traditional number 8 who's used to that aerial bombardment that'll come from the Lions. So interesting tactical changes, but I think both teams know what's coming. They just got to know how to stop it. That's
when Kwagga Smith was picked, I thought, well, lovely rugby player, but I'm thinking it doesn't fit what I think South Africa are going to bring. Maybe they're going to bring something else, and he didn't quite. He's still on the bench, but I thought Jasper Wiese would have started the first test because he's just such a beast to deal with. So I guess with his selection, it's interesting, but you kind of know what's coming, don't you?
He's got big shoes to fill, Jasper Wiese, because when you look at South Africa over the past 15, 20 years, they've had 15 years. They had Piers Spies, who was probably one of the most freakish athletes in world rugby when he played at number 8. Phenomenal number 8. And then you had Dwayne Vermeulen. So now, like Smith is a sevens background player. He's really an open side kind of guy playing at number 8. South Africa, I feel, just need a specialist 8, and that's what Jasper Wiese does. I've seen him for Leicester, and he was nominated for Premiership Player of the Year. Yeah. He's great, and you've seen, I'm sure you've seen loads of him. So he's more of a traditional South African 8, which the Lions have to deal with. They kept him quiet in the A game, but the emotion of a Test series, I bet it'll be much better this time round.
I just watching him play in the Premiership, Jasper Wiese, a couple of times after games, I've spoken to Tigers players. I've also spoken to players that have played against him, and someone who'll remain unnamed but plays for Exeter Chiefs said, don't think I've ever played against anyone that powerful. So that's because you weren't here and Henry Tuolangi was here, mate. But yeah, very, very hard to do it. What about scrum half, Jerry? Because Ali Price went all right, I thought. Conor Murray looked good when he came on, but it feels like a tough one, that.
How did you say that to someone who played in my book so well? Yeah. I mean, I thought he was a strange choice to begin with, but that was all part of the get to the breakdown, get the ball out to Dan Biggar and let it go. Yeah. So he's much quicker, in my mind, to the breakdown than Conor is, but Conor's a better box kicker. So what we saw in that first test was, it was about kicking. It wasn't about going wide. It wasn't about making those busts. It was what was happening from the kick. And so much happened because there weren't that many clean catches. There were ricochets and someone would pick up, run into space, and that would set that team on momentum. If you look at the try, the try, the Lions that scored the try, it was an exit, it was a penalty, it was a kick to the corner, and then they did the line out. So I think Conor has been brought on mainly because if it's excellent, he is the best box kicker, exit kicker, I think, scrum half in the world. And his experience in what's going to be an incredibly tight international is, again, going to be invaluable. But if I was Ali Price and I got that news this week, I mean, I would be really, yes. Just, because for me, he pretty much had the best game of rugby I've ever seen him play. Seriously, he was that good.
And if you're Rory Sutherland, who didn't have a bad game himself, but Mako comes on and does so well against Malherbe, you probably go into Sunday night, Monday morning, knowing you're going to get the big tap on the shoulder from Gats, don't you? But Ali Price was probably reasonably confident he was going to start.
What do you think?
I agree, and he's been really good. Not just that game, the warm games before, he was getting the ball away well. So he was, and because he was box kicking well, I thought, oh well, he's got both strings to his bow. I mean, we know that anyway, but he was bringing more. But I think they've gone. It's quite obvious what the game plan is going to be now. I think Lions aren't going to mess around. It's going to be box kick, heavy chase, heavy defensive efforts, get the ball back 50 metres up the pitch. When you think of a box kick, if somebody said you've got to play 15 phases and progress 40 yards, is there a 50% chance of that? I don't think there is. But if you said box kick it 40 metres and compete, is there a 50% chance of regaining possession? Without doubt. So when you weigh it up, it's much easier to regain possession from a box kick for 30 metres than trying to play into a South African blitz defence. So that's why they've gone there.
I just saw so much happen from the kicks. It was like watching a pinball machine. Like bing, bing, ricochets. Yeah. All the kicks, all the action happened. All the main bits, all the big highlights came from kicks. You bring in Conor, you're gonna hit the bullseye every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit of pressure though, because his mate Ali Price did play very well last week. Now we could keep this very, very line-centric, and there's a risk we might well do so. But it's only right and fair that we get a South African perspective. So a couple of days ago, I caught up with Nizaam Carr, former Springbok number 8, played for Wasps, lovely player to watch. He's coming back to Wasps, and he also played for the Vodafone Bulls team that beat South Africa A just a few days ago. We chatted this week.
Nizaam, hello. Tell us, how's life over in South Africa at the moment?
It's a bit wet here, so it's not the weather that we're quite used to, but we're adapting and looking forward to obviously our season for the Blue Bulls Rugby Club.
You're playing some good rugby at the moment. Of course, you're coming back to the UK pretty soon. Are you kind of looking forward to leaving, or are you sad to see home go for another couple of years?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing for sort of any South African leaving his hometown is obviously the fact that they will miss their family. But you want to compete, sort of against the best in the world. And I feel personally that the English League is by far one of the best, or probably if not the best tournament currently.
We all think the British and Irish Lions is the absolute pinnacle. It's incredibly special. How significant are the British and Irish Lions to a South African? Is it just another international team you play against, or is there something a bit more special?
For us, it's definitely, sort of one of the pinnacles of our career. Obviously, first prize is to play for the South African team. But the British and Irish Lions only tour every 12 years to South Africa. So I'll be 42 years old when they do come again. So in your career, you obviously face them once. And it's unfortunate due to COVID that the Blue Bulls Rugby Club couldn't face them. But it's definitely up there, to obviously exchange your jersey after the match and have it framed. You can always look back and say that, I played the British and Irish Lions. So definitely one of the highest moments of a South African player, growing up. And I always say, if you don't dream of becoming a Springbok, at least you can dream of playing the British and Irish Lions.
And in terms of that first test, obviously it went the Lions' way in the end. It was kind of, at half-time, we're all sitting there thinking, well, there's no way you don't beat the Springboks from here. But, to us on the sofas back home, they almost looked a bit tired in that last 20 or 30 minutes. They looked a little bit like they hadn't played many really, really tough games. Is that what you saw, or did you see something tactical change, or did the Springboks just run out of gas in the end?
No, rugby's, evolving, and you need to adapt sort of on the day. And here in South Africa, we've been taught to, sometimes told what to do. And when you're on the pitch, it's not of, how can we combat something differently? Because if they're matching us physically, what is our next step? What is our plan B? And we sort of struggle with that in South Africa. And I'm sorry to put it that bluntly. That is the honest truth. And I sort of think that was probably the matter on the day.
I think that's a brilliant piece of analysis that actually I'm going to steal if anybody asks me and pretend it was mine.
Nizaam Carr bursting down the wing. He's there.
I've watched you play a lot, Nizaam, for the Bulls and also for Wasps, and you can do the physical stuff because you're a big guy and you're back row from South Africa. It's in you, but you like to run and move and really play and threaten people with athleticism. And I kind of think, well, if Plan A doesn't work, they need guys that do a bit more of what you do. Instead, they've brought in Kitsoff, Malherbe, Jasper Wiese. All that says to me is boom, 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 we're coming for you again. So am I right in thinking that the game plan ain't going to change?
The mindset of us sort of is the wall will break. So keep running it over. It will eventually break. And sometimes, as you said, there is many ways to, go around that, defense or whatever, whether it's a little grubber or a cross kick or chip kick, whatever, just to, turn around the British and Irish forwards. There's another plan B, but as you said, they are relying heavily on the physicality. And if that doesn't work, what is plan B?
Yeah, it's almost like, well, we're not doing plan B, we're doing plan A, we're just doing it harder, I guess, isn't it? And in terms of the pressure in South Africa, how much pressure is on them now, having lost the first test?
Losing the first test, that's even more pressure now. And I'm sure the boys like Eben Etzebeth and all those boys are, going to bed thinking of what if we lose the second test? And you can't tell me that thought is not going to cross your mind, So they definitely under pressure. But one thing I must say, a lot of South Africans, in fact, most of us, when our backs are against the wall, that is when we deliver the most. And I feel obviously the Boks are hurting. Russ is coming down obviously on them as well as Jock Minaiber. So it can only go one way or the another, and only time will tell now. So really looking forward to that as well.
You bring in Visa, you bring in Kitsoff to start, and you bring in the big guy, Frans Malherbe. What do you think those changes mean?
I think they will be more settled in the scrum. And it's different to when you start the game and coming off the bench, you sort of more relaxed. So I think they will, Kitsoff, they will really be up for the game. And I think that is sort of where it's going to be, one in the besides the physical battle, the kicking game and all those stuff. I think he's gone with a forward pack that's really going to be dominant, get goal advantage ball, front football for the back. So those guys are really keen, but what a test we obviously all looking forward to witness.
Yeah, absolutely can't wait. Now, I want to talk to you about religion. And being the first Muslim South Africa international, of course, that's hugely significant. When you play for the Springboks, were you thinking, this is me, I'm the first Muslim to do this? Was it something in your mind, or were you just one of the guys and somebody reminded you later?
I sort of didn't think about that and what the magnitude of, what was happening that day. Obviously in South Africa during apartheid, only people could play, the black people, the colored people, could play together. So I represent not only myself anymore, I represent the communities, the people back then in the past who's, tried to play for the Springboks, but they couldn't. So it only sort of settled in or sunk in, later in my career, what special moment that was. I always say to the younger boys, rugby speaks one language. It's not about the color of your skin, your religion. Once you step onto that field, your teammate, my dream is always for my teammate to, say one day that I've got his back and I, stood up for him. And that is special.
I'm interested to know how rugby sort of accommodates the Muslim religion. Are there any times when there are certain rugby-related activities? I don't mean drinking, I mean training and playing. Are there some games or sessions you have to miss? Is there a bit of a balancing act, or is it actually pretty cruisy?
Probably the toughest time from the season is Ramadan. So I obviously can't eat from sunrise to sunset. So I lose about 12 to 13 kilograms in that specific month, so 30 days. Losing that amount of weight in the forward pack, it's quite tough. So sort of what I do is change my whole day around, where I fast during the day and just stay awake at night and just eat all night from 1 a.m. to about 6 a.m. in the mornings. Even though doing that, I still lose weight. So that's probably the toughest time for me. And the other thing for me is obviously having halal food. So when we visit hotels, the boys will always sort of give me and ask, hey, that's pork. Nizaam is not allowed to have that. So that camaraderie between the boys are, really special. And I count myself lucky to have teammates like that.
In 1997, the Lions won the first two tests. Can you see history repeating itself, or do you think that the wounded Springbok is as dangerous an animal as it's always been?
Well, it's a really tough one to call. I think obviously with South Africans' backs being against the wall, I think you will see a different beats come on Saturday. Although I mentioned before, the British and Irish Lions are really, looking sharp. They're looking tough, and it's going to be very difficult to, sort of beat them. But I think it's going to go the Springbok way this weekend.
We'll see how it goes. A lot of pressure on the Springboks, that's for sure. Nizaam, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I knew it would be. Thanks so much, and good luck in your Bulls game this weekend.
Thank you very much, mate. I'll see you soon.
What a lovely man. Very kind of him to join us. Sam, how would you have done not eating all day?
I remember my nutritionist when I was younger saying, when I was like 16, 17, if you walk past the McDonald's, don't be guilty, have 4 slices of bread with every meal, because literally I just couldn't put on weight, So if I had to go through Ramadan, I'm a skinny guy playing rugby. I'd be like 70, 80 kilos if I did that. I wouldn't last a week. So I wouldn't be a professional rugby player if it wasn't for all the forced eating I had to do. Because I'm just
a hell of an effort,
small guy.
To keep
crazy,
that going.
it's crazy.
And to play at that level. And Jerry, Nizaam talked about South Africa perhaps not having a plan B. I guess the idea for the Lions is to force their plan A not to work, because, as you say, you can't learn 2 game plans. So if you go in with an approach that you're absolutely back and it doesn't work, you panic, right? Well, they might panic is the idea.
They could, yeah. I just think South Africa are the way they are. Before me, whilst I played after me and when we're all gone, they will still be playing the South African way. It is Plan A. It's Route 1. It's very direct. It's won them a World Cup. You know, it's won them 2 World Cups. Why would you want to change it? And I don't. You are there the way they are. They're built the way they are. They've got to take the shortest route because they'll be too tired taking the long route.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's have a look how this poll worked out in the end. Who would you most like to room with out of Bobby Stridgeon's top 4 Lions roommates ever? Who's won it? Well, James Haskell's won it. Not a huge surprise. I guess Donna O'Callaghan doesn't drink. Andy Powell doesn't sleep. Depends what sort of tour you want. Mike Phillips, way down in 4th. Underrated, I think, Mike Phillips. Hell of a good company. James Haskell, you reasonably happy with that? Jerry, how would you fancy that?
I still go Andy Powell. I just think I've heard so many stories about him. I'd want to spend a bit of time in his, longer time in his company.
Yeah, it's almost like, do you want a room with him? How long are we talking? 1 night, a week?
yeah. One. I'm only doing it one.
Oh, 1 night. Okay,
Yeah,
one test match. Yeah. James Haskell. There are worse blokes about than James Haskell, aren't there? Let's face it.
I was going to say,
fella.
it depends what your goal is, because if you're single and your goal is to have a wingman, then Mike Phillips is your man. Mate, he'd be a fantastic wingman if you're a young 20-year-old who's single. But I'm presuming the people who voted are all happily married and they don't want to go there.
Exactly it. I don't know, you say he's a good wingman. I never wanted to go out with people that good looking. I always wanted to be in the top 5 in my group, so generally I was out in groups of 5. Thanks, boys. Thanks so much for watching Lions Live, to all of you, created by Vodafone, of course. While you're in the app, you can vote for your Player of the Series. You can see who's topping the list in the voting for Player of the Series. Good bit of fun. And you have a virtual peek around the stadium. It's a bit freaky, but you can get in the tunnel, the changing rooms. There's more using the 360 moments created by Vodafone on the app. Again, I don't know how they do it, but it's really, really cool, and it actually feels like you're really there. Thanks again to our special guests. Thanks to Bobby, thanks to Nizaam Carr, thanks to Sam Warburton and Jerry Guscott. Been great fun. Hopefully you join us same time next week, which is roughly 6 days, 23.5 hours from now, or just the same time next week. Enjoy the test tomorrow. Thanks for watching.